Welcome to the Low Post. And if you thought the glare on my forehead was bad before, wait till you see this new setup they've got for us with this lighting. Jeez.
Wow. State of the art.
I'm Eric Stark, joined by Mike Gross, as always, Sunday News sports writer Mike Gross. We're happy to be with you. We got some great topics. Let's get right into it. The British Open, Mike. Did Greg Norman choke again?
I think he probably did to an extent. I don't fault him too much for that, though, because realistically, he was trying to be the oldest winner of a major championship by 4 years. I mean, not by a little bit. And I really would have been surprised if his game at this point in his career, when he really is a part-time golfer, would have been able to stand up for 72 holes in a major. And the other thing you got to remember is, I heard somebody yesterday on one of the Yacker shows was saying that taking him to task for, well, when you have the lead with 9 holes to go, you got to close the deal. Well, he had the lead with 9 holes to go by one shot over a guy who shot 32 on the back 9 on a brutal golf course in a blizzard. So, I mean, let's see, a little bit of realism here, I think.
Somebody said, well, I think he just ran out of gas. I'm like, it's golf. How do you run out of gas in golf?
I think he maybe a little bit more mental and emotional gas, if there is such a thing. Yeah. Certainly not physical. You're right. That's not the deal. But I a lot of times in the past, over the years in golf, I've heard a lot of guys. I remember Tom Watson saying this a number of times, where he was. Through 2 rounds of a tournament or 3 rounds of a tournament, he'd say, I'm playing well, but it's smoke and mirrors. I'm not really playing that great, and it's going to eventually catch up with me. I think that was the deal with Greg Norman. I think Greg Norman came into this thing with he's not playing a lot of golf. He's more a businessman. He just got married. Very loose attitude. And then you get to Sunday when it really is winning time, and he just was not ready for the whole package of what it takes to close the deal.
But that's been in mostly his career too. I mean, this is going back to the Masters in the mid '90s. This has been his career.
Well, that was a beyond choke to collapse. Was that Masters when he had a huge lead. But again, even there, Nick Faldo threw a 67 at him, and he would have had to shoot even par to I think it was to tie him, but he didn't come close to shooting even par. So I mean, you're right to say that he certainly has some big blemishes on his career that were self-induced, that were committed. Yeah. Some things, guys holding sand shots and chipping in and all that stuff. I mean, he had some brutal breaks in his career, but also some of it was self-inflicted, no question.
I was watching a little bit of the tournament, and even the highlight shows afterwards, there wasn't as many highlights. I'm thinking, if Tiger was here, I think Tiger would have won his 15th major title. What do you think? If Tiger's in this tournament, does he win it?
I think so, and there's no way to prove that or know that. The reason why there weren't many highlights is that it was just too windy. It was too windy for 4 days, and you always hear some people say, "Well, I get a kick out of seeing the best golfers in the world slash around like migrant farm workers, with a machete." Nobody really gets a kick out of that. I mean, not for 4 days. Right. This was 35-mile-an-hour winds. And it just was not very compelling golf, and it would not have been tremendously compelling golf if Tiger would have been there. But he's the mentally toughest player in the history of the game. He has the best short game in the history of the game, and there's little doubt in my mind that he would have found a way.
And it drives me crazy sometimes with the British Open because these conditions are just outrageous for playing in it. But I think you're right. Tiger is mentally tough, and with what I saw out there as far as the competition and guys just sort of folding, I think Tiger could withstand it for 4 days.
It's very rare to see the big wind and the brutal weather for 4 days. I mean, you'll see it in the British Open. It's almost a given, but 4 days of it, that's a lot.
That's tough. Phillies made a trade Thursday. I was away and saw it on the ESPN News and was pretty shocked by it, impressed by it as well. Now I'm going to read you these numbers, Mike, first. Okay. Joe Blanton, 27 years old, 5-12 record this year, 4.96 ERA. Not very impressive, right? And I think that throws a lot of people off. I've had this guy last year on a fantasy baseball team. I know he can play pretty well. I'm actually excited about the deal. You weren't as excited. We're going to talk about that in a second. I also think that right now, I threw it back to you right before we started filming this and taping this. Besides Cole Hamels, who's the second best pitcher on the Phillies right now? And I'm going to argue Joe Blanton. What are your thoughts with this trade?
I'm okay with it. I'm not crazy about it. I think he is an innings eater. There's no question about that. He's gonna give you innings.
Third most since 2005 in the American League.
Impressive. That's an impressive number. And if he can get you to the 7th inning, 8th inning with the Phillies bullpen, I mean, that's going to be a valuable asset. I think he's. I think we sometimes in talking about pitchers, we overrate guys who are veterans who really are getting people out at what is almost a replacement level. I mean, I'm not sure this guy is much better than a replacement level in terms of his ability to get people out. Innings eater, yes, and that has some value, no question.
He's better at home than he is on the road. Now, the A's play in a stadium where the wind blows in a lot. They have a lot of foul territory. His ERA at home in 24 starts is 3.79, and on the road is 4.78, and that's in 23 road starts. So you can look at that and say, okay, Citizens Bank Ballpark is not very conducive for a pitcher like this.
Yes, you can.
It's going to be curious to see how he pitches there, but he gets a lot of ground ball outs. I think the biggest thing, like you said, is an innings eater, and that's what the Phillies really need right now. He's also done very well against the Mets. In 15 innings against the Mets, he hasn't given up a run, Mike.
Wow. Well, we'll see. We'll get a chance to work on that number this week, right?
He's also, he pitches, as we film this on a Tuesday, he's pitching Tuesday night. So by the time you guys see this aired, you'll know if I'm dumb or he's smart. Or vice versa.
No, you won't know that based on one outing.
No, you won't.
But you do make a point that's worth making, though, which is that although he's a big burly guy, he's not really a power pitcher. He's more of a gets ground balls when he's going well. He gets a lot of outs that way, and does not get a lot of strikeouts.
He will not overpower you. But I think if you're going to be a pitcher in Citizens Bank Ballpark, you don't need to be overpowering. You need to do like Kyle Kendrick does, and that's just put the ball out there, let these guys make pitch to contact.
Pitch to contact.
They call that now.
Yes, I love that term.
Yeah,
pitch to contact, baby.
He's also a second half pitcher. I found this stat interesting. His ERA in the second half of the season is 4.05 compared to the first half where it's 4.37. So we're getting into his better time of year. Hopefully he's going to warm up and. So there was a rumor that was out there, Mike. Just saw it over the weekend. The rumor had Matt Holliday, great outfielder, second in the NL MVP to Jimmy Rollins last year, and lefty reliever Brian Fuentes. The Phillies could really use a lefty out of the pen right now. Going to the Phillies from Colorado, and all they'd have to give up, I say all, these were some good pitchers: Carrasco, J.A. Happ, Marson, who's the catcher, and Shane Victorino is in on this rumored deal. What are your thoughts with a deal like that for the Phillies?
Well, my thoughts are do it if it's available. I kind of suspect that it's not available anymore. It's the talk on this and the rumor mill has kind of cooled on this. But this Matt Holliday is a terrific player. And here's something that I found out in kind of reading about this and checking this out a little bit. He's a very good defensive outfielder. People are making the routine assumption that the Phillies are sacrificing defense here in order to become this slow pitch softball team that's just going to bash people over the heads with their bats. And this guy's a pretty good athlete, right, and a pretty good defensive outfielder. He would not make the Phillies, I don't think, appreciably worse defensively. Now you're going to lose a little bit of defense, I think, in net because you lose Victorino and probably move Jason Worth to center field.
Sure.
He's probably not going to be quite as good as Victorino as a center fielder. But my God, if you can do this, you do it. If you're the Phillies, no question.
He has 2 years left. He has this year and next year on his contract.
Right.
And if you don't re-sign him, you're going to get draft picks. But if you lose Burrell after this season, and we don't know what's going to happen there, he's having a great year. We can talk about that in the future, if we bring him back or not. But if not, you've got a guy that's going to be able to bat 4 or 5 in your lineup again. So.
And the version of this deal that we all heard includes Brian Fuentes, who was a pretty good left-handed reliever who would be a valuable piece for the Phillies also.
Could be your 8th inning guy, could be a situational guy, or close if you need. He's done it all. I think the Phillies offense needs a spark right now as well, and this Holiday would do that. So
that's a good point. Look at this batting order: Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, probably Holiday, and then Ryan Howard and Burrell. I mean, that's pretty strong stuff. That's as good as anybody.
As you do that lineup, it made me think the lefty-righty. The Phillies are getting triple out because they got too many left-handers behind each other. Utley third, Howard fourth. That way, Holiday in there would break that up as well. Would give you another right-handed back in the middle of that lineup.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Good point as well, Mike. Joe Paterno. We're going to switch to JoePa here. New topic. And is the message he's sending out to recruits, it's a bit strange. Can you fill us a little bit about this and what's going on in Happy Valley right now?
Reportedly, the last couple of recruits that Joe actually ended up signing to come to Penn State, both said that he told them kind of interesting things about his future because at his age, as we all know, his coaching future, how long he's going to be coaching and who's going to be coaching next is a perennial question that recruits ask, that any of us would ask if we were considering going there. One of the kids, he told them that the new coach will definitely come from their current staff. The next Penn State coach is definitely already on staff. And the other kid asked Joe, how long are you going to be coaching? And he said, I'm going to be coaching until God calls me back. God, we don't mean return a phone call when we say that. God calls me back, if you know what I'm saying. So there's no way to know if the kids are embellishing this a little bit or if Joe really is starting to lose touch with reality in a comprehensive way. We don't know. It would not be a bad thing if Tom Bradley is the next coach of Penn State, the defensive coordinator, who a lot of people think will be the next coach, and presumably that's the guy that Joe must have been referring to when he said.
Didn't announce that.
Well, yeah.
Let's not play this game where maybe that Paterno's got the inside information. Maybe he does, and maybe that's just his will that it's going to come from that.
That's a very good point.
He said that for years.
They should announce
to the
that.
Staff. Then announce it. Florida State has a contingency plan in place when Bobby Bowden steps down. The other schools have this as well.
The term secession plan is what we're talking about here, and I think it would be better for everybody involved. Tom Bradley is a very popular guy who is a great recruiter, and a lot of these kids know him from that going in. So it's if anything, it would help Penn State's recruiting, I think. And but I think what's going on is Joe just can't give it up. Can't give it up. Can't even acknowledge that some specific point in the future he's going to be giving it up.
And I think that the administration, I mean, you got to respect Joe, but you also got to maybe say we need to have a plan, and we need because they are still getting beat with some of these recruits.
He's putting them in a very difficult position, no question about it.
Send me up for the stat of the week, Mike.
Well, Starkey, we haven't really talked a lot of numbers if we're not talking about Joe Blanton. We already covered Joe Blanton, so I have no idea what's coming next. But whatever it is, it can safely be called.
Stat of the week is 117, the amount of career sacks that Jason Taylor has. Who's Jason Taylor, Mike?
Dancing with the Stars participant.
Yes, he's also Zach Thomas's brother-in-law. He's also the latest addition to the Redskins, the Washington Redskins, a team in the Philadelphia Eagles division. So another team in the division just got a little bit stronger, Mike.
No question.
It's interesting. The Redskins started training camp and lost two defensive ends on the first day of camp. So what they do, they go out and get the Defensive Player of the Year just 2 years ago from the Miami Dolphins. Jason Taylor can still play, Mike.
Well, this is the way that had played out with they're losing the defensive ends and going out and buying one is it really in Daniel Snyder's wheelhouse, who is the owner of the Washington Redskins. That's how he operates. You just go out and buy stuff, and that has not worked very much in the past. But I don't see how it cannot be a plus for the Redskins here. This guy's an excellent football player. He had worn out his welcome in Miami, I think largely because Bill Parcells is going to be the coach there and was questioning his commitment a little bit. Jason Taylor thinks he's got some Hollywood in his future. As I said, he was a participant in Dancing with the Stars, which took up a lot of time during this off season. And Parcells clearly wanted him out of town. There was no question about that. In fact, Andy Reid talked to Parcells a little bit about Taylor, but he's still a stud. He's still an excellent football player, and I think he helps the Redskins.
The scary thing is the Redskins only had to get. Here's the face of the Miami Dolphin franchise. I mean, the team that won one game last year,
and you're right. He probably is their most recognizable player.
And all it cost the Redskins was a second-round pick next year and a sixth-round pick the following year. And that second-round pick, the Redskins were 9-7 last year, Mike. It did make the playoffs. That second-round pick is probably coming pick overall 60 in that range, unless they really just have a horrible year. And
it's not going to be a great pick.
It's not going to be a great pick. So that's all you gave up to get him. And for the Miami stand, that's all it took. So bearing that in mind, this topic was we were going to talk about Westbrook and Lido, and we expanded this a little bit, Mike. Jeremy Shockey goes out of the division. Very good tight end for the New York Giants, but a big mouth on him. And I think he and Eli Manning, he wasn't very good for Eli's career in New York. He gets traded to the Saints. Again, 2 draft picks. So it makes me think, if a defensive back goes down the next couple of weeks here in training camps as they start up in the NFL, is Lito Shepherd get traded for a couple picks, Mike?
Well, I mean, if and Shockey did not go for like a top 5 pick either. No. I mean, we're not
second round and something else. I don't have it in front of me.
These guys, it's hard to imagine that anybody can believe that a second round draft pick is likely to turn into the equivalent of Jeremy Shockey or Jason Taylor or Lito Shepherd. But it's endemic of this sort of religious fanaticism that people who run sports teams have about draft picks and about future. And it's almost like if you're a known quantity, that's a negative, even if you're a really good known quantity. It's a very strange phenomenon. You see it in this obsession with upside in the NBA that we always hear about. It's an unusual thing, and I think that it's going to make it very, very difficult for the Eagles to get value for Lito Shepherd.
No, I don't know. I guess it's easier. Is it easier to market potential over a known commodity? That's what goes on in these sports.
That's exactly what it is. That's a very good way of putting it. That's what it's easier to market within the world of pro sports. It's easier to market potential, no question.
And it's funny because baseball does this too. We go back to trading these minor league players. You trade these minor league players, but you're going to get a known commodity, and that's why even some teams have made these gambles, like CC Sabathia. He's a known commodity. You'll trade him for some guys that haven't done it yet.
But I think baseball is maybe the sanest sport in this regard because you can draft picks are maybe not specific draft picks, but in general having that ability to stockpile the farm system is a way that you can get better.
Future thoughts as you tune in each week for our show. We're going to talk more about Brian Westbrook. He just fired his agent, Fletcher Smith, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. He doesn't have to report to the end of the week into next week to see what's going to be going on with that drama.
And hired Drew Rosenhaus, who Eagles fans will remember from the TO adventure.
Yeah, so what's going to happen with Lido, with his contract with Rosenhaus, what's going to happen with Westbrook, and his situation with agents. It's all up in the air. That's future fodder for but I'm also curious to see what's going to happen with these guys with injuries. Does Lido maybe get back on the table with a trade now? Not that I want him out of here. I think they're better off keeping him. So that's our stuff for this week. We appreciate you tuning in. Until next week, this is Mike Gross for our producer Paul France. I'm Eric Stark. We'll join you again from the Low Post.